For 500,000 years, humanity was a whisper. A forgotten legend buried under alien empires, trade networks, and histories rewritten to erase the species that once reached for the stars. No one remembered Earth. No one remembered the warmth of a sunrise filtered through blue air, or the small, defiant minds that once built cities against the void. Humanity had become myth, a story told to frighten children. Be humble, they said, or you'll end up like the Terrans. In the great archives of the Sarah Empire, Earth was a cautionary tale. A civilization that rose too fast, defied the natural order, and vanished when it challenged the gods of the galaxy. But myths have power. And myths, if left alone too long, have a way of waking up. It began with silence. For centuries, the Galactic Council had operated in perfect rhythm, 1,000 voices woven into a single bureaucratic hum. Empires negotiated, species debated, wars were contained before they began. Everything predictable. Everything safe. Until the signals started disappearing. At first, it was small. Outposts stopped transmitting. Mining stations went dark. Then entire fleets, gone. No distress calls. No wreckage. Just absence. The Council blamed pirates, cosmic radiation, sensor anomalies. Anything but what it really was, the universe remembering something it had tried to forget. The silence spread. And in that silence, whispers grew. A word passed between frightened officers and skeptical scholars, Terra. The Sarah Empire had ruled the known galaxy for so long that arrogance had replaced curiosity. They didn't investigate the disappearances, they dismissed them. After all, what power could challenge an empire that spanned 1,000,000 systems? What race could return from extinction? But deep beneath the empire's layers of control, a single transmission broke through. It was faint. Distorted. Ancient. A human voice, speaking in a forgotten language that the machine struggled to decode. But one word carried clear across the stars. We remember. When the signal was confirmed, the Council convened an emergency session, the first in centuries. The chamber was filled with representatives from 100 worlds. Some laughed at the idea. Others looked uneasy. The Harari, a quiet, neutral species that traded in information, not war, were the first to speak. If humanity has returned, said their delegate, then your empires are already dead. You just don't know it yet. The room erupted. The Sarah delegates scoffed, calling it superstition. But the Harari continued. They were erased once. Not because they were weak, but because they learned too much. Because they saw something that none of us were meant to see. Those words lingered long after the meeting ended. Weeks later, an Imperial task force was dispatched to the Perseus Expanse, the region where the human signal had originated. 12 warships. Thousands of drones. Enough firepower to burn a world clean. They never reported back. When the Council demanded answers, the Sarah Empire claimed technical malfunction. But the Harari released intercepted data, visuals recovered from the fleet's last transmission. In the final seconds before the feed went black, something impossible appeared on screen. Not a ship. A shadow, enormous, angular, and silent. It moved with precision, yet emitted no recognizable energy signature. As the camera zoomed, faint symbols could be seen carved into its hull. English. Letters spelling a name no alien could read, but every human would recognize. UNS Vanguard. No one knew what to make of it. The Council dismissed the footage as fabricated. But the galaxy had seen enough. Fear had a way of spreading faster than truth. Civilizations began to recall their old legends, stories of human vengeance, of fleets that vanished into the dark to become ghosts. And now, the ghosts had returned. For the next few months, a quiet panic rippled through the empire. Fleets were redirected. Communication grids re-encrypted. Every outpost equipped with new detection protocols. The council promised control, order, safety. But the Harari were right about one thing: when humanity moves, it doesn't announce itself. No invasions. No declarations. No demands. Just silence. And then, the lights go out. When the next disappearance occurred, it wasn't a remote station, it was an entire planet. 40 million inhabitants. A world at the edge of the Empire's northern arm, gone overnight. Satellites, cities, biospheres, erased. In the void where the planet once was, a single transmission played on loop across the Empire's networks. The same voice as before. We remember. And this time, the translation was perfect. The galaxy stood still. Every empire, every council, every distant species that had laughed at the myths of Terra, they all listened. Because for the first time in millennia, something had spoken with absolute certainty. Something ancient. Something human. And though no one dared to admit it, they all felt it. A quiet, primal fear. Not of war. But of the unknown intelligence behind that silence. Of the mind that had waited 500,000 years, not for revenge, but for understanding. Because maybe, just maybe, humanity hadn't returned to conquer. Maybe it had returned to ask the question the galaxy had long forgotten. What did you do to us? The Empire's fleets gathered in silence. Hundreds of ships, bright, sharp, and proud, aligned in the dark between stars. The Serra Empire had faced rebellions, invasions, and cosmic catastrophes before. But never this. Never nothing. Because that's what they were fighting now. Not armies. Not ideologies. But an absence, precise, intelligent, and deliberate. The Council called it the silent offensive. No one knew where humanity was striking from, or even if they were striking at all. Systems fell without battle. Communications died mid-transmission. AI networks collapsed into recursion. Entire colonies went dark while their defense fleets drifted powerless in orbit. And when the lights came back, messages appeared. Always the same. We remember. At first, the Serra Empire denied everything. Malfunction. Piracy. Localized insurgency. But fear doesn't obey denial. It spreads like gravity, unseen but absolute. Merchants began abandoning trade routes. Outer worlds declared neutrality. The Empire's citizens, long conditioned to worship stability, began whispering of prophecy. Of a species that had once built machines capable of thinking beyond thought. The Harari's words echoed across the galaxy. They learned something none of us were meant to see. The Empire finally acted. Operation Glass Veil, a counterintelligence campaign spanning 5 sectors. Every known signal spectrum was swept, every data packet traced. Millions of drones deployed to hunt the source of the human transmissions. They found nothing. But amid the silence, patterns began to form. Each world that vanished had one thing in common: it had once participated in the subjugation of Earth. Records long buried under imperial censorship resurfaced, ancient archives describing the Terran uprising, the extermination campaigns, the destruction of Sol. And then, one by one, those same worlds disappeared. No explosions. No fleets. Just absence. As if something was editing reality itself. To understand what was happening, the Council turned to the Harari, the last species that claimed to have encountered humans before their fall. The Harari accepted the invitation, though reluctantly. Their ambassador arrived in a simple, unarmed vessel. No escort. No guards. When they entered the council chamber, they carried no data, no evidence, only words. "You still think this is a war," the Harari said. "It isn't. Humanity isn't fighting you. They're correcting you." The Serra Emperor leaned forward. And what does that mean? It means, the Harari replied, you're living inside a lie they built, and they've finally decided to end it. The council dismissed the statement as cryptic nonsense. But deep in the Empire's core, their quantum networks began to fail. Every simulation, every predictive algorithm, corrupted. Military AIs that once coordinated planetary defenses began receiving ghost commands. No source. No trace. Then came the impossible reports. Drones intercepting what appeared to be human fleets, not of metal, but light. Fleets composed of projected matter, data lattices so dense they mimic mass. Ships that weren't there, yet could disable real ones. Every Empire scientist concluded the same thing. They weren't ships. They were messages. Encoded warnings written in the language of physics itself. By then, the Empire was collapsing from within. Governors defected. Admirals refused orders. Entire sectors sealed themselves off, declaring neutrality until the ghosts pass. And the ghosts kept coming. Every time a fleet vanished, its final transmission contained the same haunting pattern. A series of pulses in binary, repeating endlessly. When decoded, it formed 3 words. We remember you. Not, we remember. We remember you. The difference broke the Council's last illusion of control. Because that message wasn't vengeance, it was acknowledgement. Humanity wasn't erasing the Empire out of hatred. They were recognizing it. Studying it. Understanding it. Like a scientist observing a failed experiment. That terrified them more than any weapon could. The Sarah Emperor ordered a full withdrawal to the core systems. Hundreds of billions evacuated toward the imperial capital. Every defense activated. Every planetary shield raised. Then, nothing happened. No attack. No fleets. Just silence again. For weeks, the galaxy held its breath. Until the Harari transmitted one final message to the Council. You still don't understand. You think they're coming from your future, your space, your rules. They're not. Humanity evolved past this dimension. They're observing you from above time. The Emperor's response was simple. Then why do they still speak? Because, said the Harari, they're trying to see if you're worth saving. When the silence finally broke, it wasn't with destruction, but with light. Across the Empire's core worlds, every screen, every comlink, every sensor lit up. Simultaneously. A single image appeared, a blue world floating in the black. Earth. Not a ruin. Not a tomb. Alive. Restored. Breathing. Underneath it, a final transmission played in every known language. For 500,000 years, you called us extinct. But extinction is a concept for the afraid. We endured, we learned, we changed. And now, we simply ask, will you? Then the light faded. The image dissolved. And the Empire's fleets, all of them, powered down simultaneously. No one knows how. No one knows why. But when the systems came back online, the Sarah flag, the symbol of galactic power, had been replaced on every ship by a new one. A simple emblem. A circle. A line through it. And beneath it, a single word. Humanity. They never fired a shot. They never needed to. The galaxy had seen something far more terrifying than war. Evolution. And for the first time in its long, arrogant history, the Empire finally understood what the Harari had tried to warn them. Humanity didn't return to conquer. They returned to remind the galaxy that consciousness itself is a weapon, and they had learned how to use it. The galaxy thought it was over. The fleets had stopped moving. The Empire had fallen without a sound. And in the quiet that followed, every species waited for the next transmission, the next sign of humanity. But it never came. Humanity vanished again, as silently as they had returned. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the stars felt empty. The Harari called it the second silence. They said it wasn't absence. It was listening. Because humanity hadn't just won a war, they had reached a threshold. They had crossed a boundary that no civilization had ever come back from. The Empire's fall wasn't conquest. It was a signal, a cosmic announcement that someone, somewhere, had achieved the impossible. Conscious transcendence. Across the galaxy, ruins awoke. Not human ruins. Older. Vaster. Structures long buried beneath nebulae began emitting low-frequency pulses, each echoing the same resonance pattern found in human transmissions. It was as if something ancient had been waiting for the right voice to speak again. The Council sent expeditions. None returned. Those few fragments of data that did make it back described geometries that defied reality, architecture folding through dimensions, built not in space, but between it. And within those echoes, a new word emerged in translation. Architects. The Harari were the first to understand. They gathered their archives, records older than any star map, and revealed a truth they had kept hidden for millennia. The architects built the first galaxies, the Harari said. They shaped matter into consciousness. And humanity was their last experiment. The chamber fell silent. Because if that was true, then humanity's return wasn't an act of vengeance. It was the reawakening of a design older than life itself. Every empire began searching for meaning. Some worshipped humanity as divine. Others feared them as catalysts of extinction. But no one could find them. Not a trace. Only the faint hum in the background of the cosmic microwave field, a pattern that wasn't there before. When decoded, it formed words in every language simultaneously. The architects remember you. It was the same message humanity had once sent to the Empire, inverted, mirrored, answered. The galaxy had spoken. And something had replied. The Harari disappeared soon after that. Their worlds went dark, their archives erased. No signs of struggle. No debris. Just silence again, but this time, deeper. A silence that felt intentional. And in that void, the stars began to change. Entire constellations shifted subtly over weeks, as though someone were rewriting the sky. Astrophysicists confirmed the impossible, stellar drift had accelerated across multiple sectors simultaneously, as if the galactic map itself were being edited. No one knew who was doing it. But some suspected that humanity hadn't vanished at all. They had been invited upward. A year later, a signal reached every world at once. Encoded in the same structure humanity had once used, simple, elegant, undeniable. We looked into the void, and the void spoke back. We found the architects, and they remembered us. We are not returning. We are becoming. Then, silence again. Permanent. Absolute. Centuries passed. Empires rebuilt. New civilizations rose, wary of repeating the arrogance that had nearly erased them. But deep in the cosmic background, faint, like a heartbeat, the signal persisted. It was constant. Calm. Rhythmic. Not noise. A countdown. And the Harari's final words, found engraved in an abandoned archive, offered a chilling interpretation. The architects are not gods. They are gardeners. When the garden grows wild, they prune. The galaxy began preparing for something it could not define. Even as the countdown slowed, there was no question left about who had started it. It was humanity, the species that refused extinction. The ones who turned silence into language, and language into awakening. And somewhere, far beyond the boundaries of time and thought, something vast was watching, through human eyes, through human memory, remembering the moment consciousness first looked back at the universe and said, "We are the mirror." In the end, there was no war. No empire. No rebellion. Only understanding, a single, profound realization that echoed through the void. Humanity had never been the experiment. Humanity had been the awakening. And the architects were simply waiting for their children to come home.